Right. My name is Nelson. I'm the main presenter for today on AQCESSRAMP, a tool that TranSoft Solutions has developed to help engineers quickly and efficiently design curb ramps. All right. Today's webinar is a joint collaboration with Great Lakes Bentley User Group. So before I get started or before I continue, I'll let Chuck say a few words.
Yeah, thanks, Nelson. Thanks everybody for joining the webinar. We kind of threw this one in pretty quickly. As you know, we usually have one every other month, but I saw this, a co-worker of mine at OHM brought this to my attention, and I looked at it, and it was really cool software. So I called TranSoft and see if they would put on a webinar for us, and they graciously are doing that. So we will had a couple emails this past week. A couple people couldn't attend the webinar today for other reasons. So they asked if it'll be recorded, and just like all the other webinars we do, this will be uploaded to our YouTube site, and I will send out a link to when that's ready. And just for some future items here, September 8th, we will be having another webinar from Bentley, from Jimmy Prow, on templates and some cool tricks with end conditions and stuff like that. And then I have a bunch lined up for the next few months, so we might be having webinars once a month now instead of every 2 months, because they're really racking up, and we got some good stuff coming. So we're starting the new webinar series with TranSoft and AQCESSRAMP. So Nelson will be presenting this, and Nelson, if you can take over from here and just tell them how we'll handle questions and answers. Thanks, Nelson.
All right, thank you very much, Chuck, for the wonderful introduction. So again, my name is Nelson. For today's webinar, just a few house rules. For questions or any comments, please feel free to type it out into the question or chat box. I will be addressing all questions at the very end of the presentation. So if you have anything, please just feel free to type it in, and we'll address them at the very end. All right, so let's get started on the webinar itself. Right. So just a quick introduction on TranSoft Solutions. We began in 1991 with introduction of AutoTurn, the most widely used vehicle swept path simulation software in North America and probably worldwide. And starting from there, we've developed quite a few other software products, such as Taurus for roundabout design, Nexus DDI for intersection interchange designs. We also have ParkCAD for parking lot site design. We have GuideSign for signages and pavement markings as well. We've also acquired a few other companies that allows us to do traffic analysis, as well as a few other European companies. So we've expanded globally as well. All right. Just a quick introduction for myself. I was in design consulting before I decided to join TranSoft Solutions. While I was doing design consulting, I mostly worked on large land development projects, doing road and utility upgrades, creek diversions as well. And the reason why I decided to join TranSoft Solutions is due to the fact that I wanted to be able to make an impact on a global scale, which is why I decided to join TranSoft, so I can help engineers help the people instead. All right, so for today's introduction, for today's agenda, we're going to do a quick background on curb ramps. Then I'll introduce you to AQCESSRAMP, how it is different than the current method of designing and also our competition, the features and benefits of AQCESSRAMP, and then we'll do a technical demonstration on the software itself. And at the very end, we'll have a Q&A session to address any questions or concerns that you have regarding our software. All right, so now a quick background on curbs and curb ramps. So I'm pretty sure we've all seen curb ramps. We've all used it most likely before, just because it's easy to use. But What a lot of people do not realize is that curb ramps actually started being developed and constructed always starting from 1940s. But there were no standards at the time. And the current standard for Americans with Disability Act was actually put in place in 1991. So what this means is that between 1940s and 1990s, there are probably millions of curb ramps that have been constructed. And all those curb ramps most likely do not meet the criteria that was set in place by the ADA standards. So from what we understand from talking to our clients is that right now there are millions of curb ramps that do not meet standards, that they have to be rebuilt or redesigned to meet the ADA standards. So what this means is that the many DOTs, cities, counties, they all have they have to redesign thousands of curb ramps every year. And even when redesigning thousands every year, this entire initiative to be able to redesign all of their curb ramps to be compliant with the standard will take decades to complete. Okay? So why did we decide to develop a software to help the designers? Well, just a really quick background on how we got started in this software itself. Actually, a couple years ago, around 2-3 years ago, we started approaching a few of our clients to ask them what they found difficult when it came to designing curb ramps, or when it came to designing intersections and infrastructures. And a few of them voiced their concerns, gave us their opinions, but one of the more prominent voices was Caltrans, and they had expressed that designing curb ramps was actually very troublesome. Even though it's such a small infrastructure, designing it can take minimum 1 hour, and even the most complex one can take about a week or more. So with that in mind, we approached a few of our other clients and asked them if they had the same concerns. And a lot of them had expressed the same challenge that Caltrans had expressed as well, that yes, designing curb ramps was actually quite tedious to do. And from this current workflow that you're seeing on the screen right now, we can go over the current workflow and why it is so tedious and why we decided to develop a software to help engineers and designers be able to quickly design curb ramps. Okay, so the current method of designing curb ramps, whether or not you're using manual method or if you're using civil cells in Open Roads Designer, the design process can be quite iterative and tedious in nature because it requires balancing competing factors such as slopes, the geometries, make sure it ties into existing designs or their existing infrastructures. Okay, so the manual method of designing curb ramps is that you're required to make assumptions on a lot of your slopes and geometry. And then based off of those assumptions, you'll do your back calculations to see if your assumed geometry or your assumed curb ramp would tie into the existing infrastructures. And if it does not, then you have to go back to the very beginning, assume either a new slope or geometry, and then recalculate. And each time you assume a new slope or you assume a new geometry, you have to manually edit your lines to make sure that everything ties in together. And then you have to manually do your calculations to make sure that everything is compliant to the standards. And during this entire process, you'll keep going back to the standards to make sure that you're within it and that everything would work out. And you can understand that just from my describing the entire process, it already sounds very iterative. It already sounds very complicated and very tiring to have to design. So what we did was we decided to speed up that entire process by allowing the users to be able to select which type of curb ramp they would like to design right from the very beginning. Right? Then they would just select what's their right-of-way constraints. So their curb alignment. Maybe if they have a back of walk alignment, they would choose that as well. And then our software will drop in a geometry for them. And they can quickly edit the geometry using the grid points or using precise inputs. And based off of their values that they decide to use, or based off their edits, everything will update dynamically. And in addition to just the lines updating, we also have the slope callouts, the elevations, updating dynamically with them as well, so that you as a user do not have to do any calculations. And the callouts will actually have visual confirmations on whether or not you're compliant to whichever standard you're using, so that you do not have to keep checking whether or not you're within the standards. Just based off visual confirmation, you'll be able to know if your curb ramp works and if it's compliant. So what this means is that even for new users, people who are not familiar with designing curb ramps, with our softwares, they'll be able to design it really quickly and efficiently. And for those who like 3D modeling, our software does not just do plan designs. Right from the very beginning, our software will actually produce a 3D model for you. And with just a click of a button, you can generate a 3D surface that you can then manually tie into or merge into your existing surface or corridors if you have them. So I mentioned that Caltrans was one of the prominent voices that we heard, and this entire software was actually started off as a collaboration with Caltrans as well. But it wasn't just Caltrans that helped us out throughout this entire process. We actually had various DOTs have sneak peeks of this process. They would then give us their opinions on what they liked, what they didn't like, and then we then adjusted the software, made changes based off the various DOTs' opinions. So on the screen is actually quite a few samples of the DOTs that helped us. Not all of them though, but just a few samples of the ones that did help us. And as you can see over here, we also have Michigan involved as well during our entire process. Okay. So we were actually very proud of it because the software was not just our software. It's actually a collaboration of many DOTs, many AEC firms as well, so that we're able to produce a software for the people that was collaborated and worked together with the engineers and designers throughout the entire development process. Okay, so I did quite a few introductions of AQCESSRAMP already. I've provided you with quite a few information, but just a quick recap of what AQCESSRAMP is. So AQCESSRAMP is a tool that will help you quickly and efficiently design your curb ramps. We provide you with simple UI and workflow so that you'll be able to easily maneuver through the software. You'll be provided with multiple workflows, so whether or not you're doing a brand new design or you're retrofitting an existing curb ramp or sidewalk, you'll be able to design 2D and 3D curb ramps at a click of a button. We have built-in templates in both curb ramps and curb types, so that you can mix and match to be able to customize your curb ramps. And with software feedback of slopes and elevations, you'll be able to know whether your curb ramp is compliant to whichever standard you're using, whether you're using national standards such as FHWA, ADA, AG, and ProWeg, or you're using state-specific standards. And even if you're working with a city, you can create your own standards as well that I can show you later on how you can do that. And once you're done, you can then generate a 3D surface with a click of a button that you can then merge into your existing surfaces. Okay. So a few of the features that we have is our comprehensive list of design guidelines that we offer for the users, from various regional to federal guidelines. Okay. Again, we have quick generation of our curb ramp with a single click of a button based off of a site constraint, and the user is able to easily edit using grip points and precision inputs in our dialog box, and everything will update dynamically according to the user's edits. Our software feedback will quickly notify the user whether or not they're compliant to the standards, and the calls will be provided for the slopes and for elevations. And there'll also be color indications for visual confirmations. So they'll be able to quickly know if they're in range. Again, we have 3D modeling, we have 3D surface generation, and we also have reporting tables so that the user can know, can quickly grab their point coordinates for the key points of their curb ramp design. So they can get their X and Y, also their elevations of the key points. They'll also be able to generate a geometric summary report based off of their curb ramp design that will provide them with the geometry as well as the slope of their curb ramp design. And this is just a few samples of the curb ramps that are offered. So we have the perpendicular, the parallel. We have variations of the perpendicular that allows for planting in the front. We have the directional. We also have blended transitions. And again, I mentioned we have quite a few guidelines from both the federal level and the state specific levels. And so we actually have all 50 states in our software. And we also have FHWA, ADA, AG, and ProWig in there. So now I'll be jumping into the technical demonstration portion of today's webinar. Go. All right, terrific. So over here, I have an intersection that I'll be working on. I'll be showcasing a few various templates using this intersection right here. And I'll also be going over the various features of AQCESSRAMP. All right. So when you start off AQCESSRAMP, whether or not you're using Bentley's MicroStation or OpenRoads Designer, or you're using Autodesk's AutoCAD and Civil 3D, you'll be provided with the same ribbon or toolbar, similar to the one shown above over here. And the workflow is exactly the same for whichever CAD software you're using. And the workflow should go from left to right. So starting from the left side, the user will be able to specify which drawing unit they would like to be designing to, whether or not they're using imperial or metric. They can also see the various design guidelines that are available for them, and they can turn them on and off accordingly over here so that later on during their actual design process, they can shorten the list of available guidelines. Okay. We also have our licensing information, and we have our contact information for TranSoft Solutions. If you have any questions or concerns during your design process, feel free to contact us and we'll provide you with a prompt answer. Next, we have our properties. So this is where the user is able to specify what level they would like each of the elements of their curb ramp to be placed on. So whether you want them all on single layer or a very specific layer, you can all set them here. All right. So as you can see over here in curb ramp, we provide the user the ability to specify colors and line styles, as well as the levels and transparency for the ramp, the landing, the curb, socket lines, the conform lines, the detectable warning strips, as well as the planting and boulevard. So that if you have any state-specific line styles or colors that you would like to use, you can actually modify here so that the curb ramps that's generated will conform to whichever standard you're using. Same as for annotation, for the elevation callouts and the slope callouts as well. You can set it all over here really quickly. And you can even save property settings and even load property settings by simply extracting, sending it to another user, and they can just load it up over there. Okay. Next, we have our design guideline. So this is the main part of our software, the one that we're most proud of. So as you can see, we have all 50 states again. And if you view it, such as the one from Michigan DOT, you can see that we have quite a few various types available, such as type C, type D, the F, Rs, RF, and P. So you can see we have a parallel, we have the various perpendicular curb ramp, and using the directional, we can actually create a blended transition for the type D. And we also have a few other various types. So you can see that we can actually set the initial value so that right from the very beginning, you can already have a compliant curb ramp. You can also set the type of curb you would like to use. And in addition to the initial values, you can also set the design conditions. So what's the minimum maximum values that will allow your curb ramp to be compliant? What's the minimum maximum geometry and slopes that is acceptable for whichever standard you're using? Such as for Michigan, we have a minimum width for the ramps and the landing. We have a maximum slope for the ramp, the cross slopes, even for the flares as well, right? And for detectable warning strips. So these are all values that the user can set themselves. Obviously, as you can see right now, for state-specific that's shipped with the software, we do gray it out so that the users are not able to modify it. However, the user does want to modify or create their own, they can simply start a new one from scratch, or they can copy an existing one. So if they're to start a new one from scratch, let's say we want to create a new Michigan one, click OK. And we can add the various templates available. So you can see over here, we have the various templates for the users to use. Okay. And the user will just be able to simply click OK, put a name down for it. Okay, let's just have a really quick, simple name. And then they'll be able to start with the various initial values that they would like to use. And as you can see, even for curve standards, we have quite a comprehensive list available as well, right? Even for Michigan, we have the various curve templates available so that you can mix and match depending on where you're designing your curb ramp. Okay, and again, for design conditions, you can select which ones you want to use. If you don't need a maximum, you can select it off. You can turn it off, but you can set in the actual values yourself. Okay. So that's all very, very easy for users. So we have state-specific standards, but we understand some counties or cities have their own standards as well. So you can actually create your own standards for the city or county. Or if you're not sure how, or you're having troubles creating your own standard, feel free to let us know which city or county you would like your standard to be for, and we can actually create it for you and send you a file for you to be able to simply import it into your own workstation for you to use. And even yourself, if you create one, you can simply export it so that other people can use it too. So that's very easy for you as users. Okay, so we're going to close it here. Next, we have the ability to generate and edit the curb ramp. And then we have the tool to generate the report. So we need a curb ramp to be able to generate a report. We also have the tutorial. So we have quite a few tutorials for users to be able to use. For when they're first starting, it will just take you through the steps of generating a curb ramp. And then we also have the technical support, and we have a help section. So if there's any terminologies or features that you're not familiar with during your design, feel free to go into the help section, and you'll be able to look it up. All right. All right, so let's get started with the actual generation portion of the software. So we're going to generate a curb ramp. So as you can see, with Michigan, we can decide which type we want. So let's go with the simple type R. So let's go with a R. Okay, let's go with type F. So the most basic perpendicular curb ramp, just to show you guys what we're capable of at the moment. Okay, and again, we can select which curb standard we would like to use, which curb type, and then we can select the anchor point. So what the anchor point means is that obviously the curb ramp is anchored to the curb geometry, but what that curb geometry represents is up to the user. So they can select if they wanted to represent the back of curb, the face of the face of the curb, the flow line, or in some cases, there'll even be a gutter edge if they want. So we can select a gutter edge if we choose to do so. Okay. And we also have the ability to generate 2 curb ramps at once. So if you're at a corner where you need to generate 2 curb ramps at once, you'll be able to do so with right at the very beginning, and you'll be able to edit them dynamically. So I'll show you that later on as well. Okay. So click OK. So now we'll select our curb geometry. So whether you're using a line string, complex chain, or horizontal and vertical alignments, you'll be able to use our software. So if you're trying to do conceptual, such as you just want to start off with a simple line, you just draw on this line, you want to see if it works, you'll be able to do so as well. So I'll start off with a simple line here. Okay. And the software will ask me if I want to use a vertical. Okay, so this is actually a horizontal, an alignment that I'm choosing right now. I didn't realize it was an alignment. I thought it was a simple line string. But since it's an alignment, we have vertical profile, so we'll be attaching the vertical profile to it. We'll click OK. Okay, next it will ask us to select a back of walk alignment. But since we do not have one because we're doing a brand new design, we don't even have sidewalks here yet. So we'll offset our primary geometry. The reason why we have to offset our primary geometry is because our software requires a line there. But this can be considered a construction line. It's just that we require 4 sides to form a group, because we need a group to have intelligence for our software. Okay, so but you can just treat it as a construction line. So we can offset it, and we can choose a distance that we want to offset. So we're going to offset at 11 feet. We'll click OK. We'll accept it. And then we'll select the socket line. So the extent of our construction, how far do we need, are we replacing, or how far are we designing this curb ramp? So we'll specify over here. Okay, next we'll place the other socket line on the other side. And then we can just drop in our curb ramp. So I'll drop it in right there. So you can see right off the bat, our curb ramp was dropped in, and the curb ramp is currently anchored to the back of the walk, the back of the curb. So you can see there's a flow line, and there's my curb and gutter. I believe this is a mountable curb. That's why it's showing like this. And you can see that there's various grip points that the user is able to use. So I'll go through the various grip points. Bear with me, it does lag a little bit due to the fact that OpenRoads is constantly saving the line works. So starting from the back over here, as you can read, it adjusts the curb ramp's angle. So if I were to move the mouse, okay, and we wait for it to load up, or we can accept it, very soon you'll see that the curb ramp's angle has been changed to fit the new specified angle. Okay. Hold on a second. It is currently still registering. It's constantly processing. So there you go. We're able to change the angle, right? We can also change the landing length. So we'll adjust the landing length from there. Okay. And obviously we can go through the various other types as well. Hold on a second. We do have grip points that will allow you to change the width of the curb ramp. It will allow you to change the length of the ramp as well. It will allow you to change the flare length, as well as move the location of the ramp. So as you can see over here, we can adjust the ramp's width, adjust the ramp's length. We can move the curb ramp, adjust the flare length, and even near the socket line, we can move the socket line. We can also change the angle of the socket line as well. So obviously using a grip point, it can be a little bit laggy. So what we actually allow the user to use, okay, sorry about that. I accidentally exited out of it, so I'll be reselecting my curb ramp for the editing. Is that we actually allow the user to do precise inputs. Okay, so if you're the user, wish to have a certain length for the ramp or a certain length for the landing, they can actually specify 6 feet. And just like that, the software will adjust dynamically. Even for the ramp, let's say I want to widen it. So I'll widen it to 6 feet as well. So you can see right away, the software will update everything for me. Okay. And even for the flares, I can adjust it according to whatever I want. And even for the slope calls available, as you can see, some of them have numbers. All of them have elevations, but some have numbers that correspond to the dialog box over here that you can actually enter precise value for. And we even allow the user to specify the detectable warning strip. So if they want it only 1 feet wide, they can. And even for conform width, you can see, you can go over there. So what conform width is, if you have a surface, our software will actually have a transition area for the design surface to the existing surface. So which is this yellow strip over here. So this is what we call our transition or conform width. And the user can actually specify the width of this as well if they choose to do so. And you can probably notice the moment I change the detectable warning width from 2 feet to 1 feet, the value or the dialog box actually showed the dialog box turned red because the minimum detectable warning width or strip is actually 2 feet, and I specified 1 feet. So that means I'm not compliant anymore, right? So even the dialog box will show red for the ones that aren't compliant, such as even for landing width, the landing slope. The maximum is 2%. Right now I'm sitting at 2.1%, so now it's red. And you can even see in the curb ramp over here, the call out became red, and it even says maximum is 2%. So we can, based off of that, we can make our adjustments, such as turn this to 7 feet, and just like that, it's now compliant again, right? So even for landing, for all of these, we can change the value for. Okay. So you can see very quickly, I can edit my curb ramp. And if I want, I can just adjust the landing angle again to make it go back to normal. All right. So that is the perpendicular curb ramp, or for Michigan, it's called a type F. So now I'll be showcasing the other type of curb ramps available. Okay. So I'll click OK for this one to exit out of the editing phase. Okay. Actually, before I continue with the other type of curb ramps, I'll generate a quick report for this. So as you can see, we have point coordinate and geometric summary table. So we can quickly create a point coordinate table out of it. Include our elevations, obviously. Do this for construction. And it'll export it as a CSV file that we can then open up. Okay. Oh, sorry about this. I accidentally exited out of there. Okay, so here's my point coordinate table. So you can see point 1, it gives me X, Y coordinate and the elevation as well for all of them. So that you can provide this, or you can even add this into your drawing file if you need to provide this for the contractors, right? So there you go. I'll actually pan this over as well so that you can see the 3D model. So over here is our 3D. So obviously the curb is shown over here. You can see the curb ramp is 3D model. Okay. There you go. So I'll go back to doing top view. Next, I'll be showing the other type of curb ramps. So I'll delete this one for now. I'll keep this construction line so that I can show you the various other workflow. So this one is, I offset it. Obviously, it is just a complex chain. So that has 3D data to it. But again, if you're it is still a construction line, but obviously, as I said, for my next example, I'm going to be utilizing it. So if I pretend that I have an existing sidewalk, I can use that as my back of walk alignment. Okay, so let's go with a parallel curb ramp. All right, let's go with a C1 curb. Okay, we'll click OK. Let's pretend for this case that we don't have any 3D elements to it, that everything, the elevation is set at 0, because we're just doing a conceptual design. We'll still select the same line, but instead of using the vertical profile, we can actually select a fixed elevation. So we can actually specify the elevation we want. And so we can click OK. We'll select our complex chain for secondary geometry. And again, we can either extract from geometry because it has the elevation or it has 3D components to it, or we can do fixed elevation again. So as you see, from if you have a 3D line string or a complex chain that's 3D, we can extract the geometry from there. You don't have to have vertical profiles. You don't have to have actual alignments to have the 3D components to it. You can just extract from the geometry of your complex chain. But we're going to use a fixed elevation. Click OK. Again, we're going to specify the socket line. Okay. And then we're going to specify the location of our curb ramp. So you can see right off the bat, our software will generate the curb ramp. Okay. A lot of things are not compliant right now, so everything's popping up as red that the user can then edit using our software to make it compliant. Okay. Again, the dialog box is slightly different, but it still works the same. Okay. And if I were to pan this over to 3D, you can see that it is now 3D. It is a 3D model. It even has a retaining curb on back. Okay. And the curb geometry at the front as well for the curb type that you have selected. All right, so this is our parallel curb ramp. So you can see right off the bat, it does generate for you, even 3D model, so that you don't have to manually choose any of the, manually draft any lines, manually do any of the edits. Even especially retaining curb in the back, everything does update dynamically for you. Okay, so click OK for now. Go top view. So the next one I want to show you is actually the type D. So I'll be showing the blended transition. I'll still be using the same corner. Okay. So click Axis Ramp again, generate a ramp, and then we'll click type D. So this is the blended transition. Okay. Click the curve geometry again that we want to use. Okay. We'll do we'll use our vertical profile for now. We can offset the primary geometry. That's offsetted by, let's go with 13 feet for now. And we'll offset it like that. I do understand it's not the best offset, so we needed to accept. Okay, and we'll specify our socket line, so we'll go somewhere further away. Okay, and we'll select something here as well. And then we'll select where we want our blended transition to be placed at. So you can see right off the bat, it'll generate two technically directional curb ramps that the user will be, oh, sorry, I right clicked out of that one. So I'll go back to editing. So using grid points, we'll be able to edit it to make it into a blended transition. Okay, so we'll quickly drag this grid point out. Again, we'll have to wait a little bit for it to work. Okay. And we'll go to the other side as well, and we'll drag it out. Okay, hold on a second. Give it a little bit moment. Okay, hold on. And hold on a second, give me a little bit more time. It is because this is open roads, that's why it does lag a little bit, as I mentioned. It's constantly saving the line style. So, oh shoot, hold on a second. Okay, there you go. Come on, hold on a second. Sorry about this. It just jumped out of there for some weird reason. So sorry about this. It is taking a little bit of time to be able to generate it. Okay. So while we're waiting, I must I'll answer a few questions. So one of the questions I was asked is that there are line styles and color options. Hold on a second. It actually crashed on me, so I have to load it up again. Sorry about this. So there are line styles and color options. So can the CAD manager create presets for others to download to use a load preset option? So yes, that's exactly what we intended for our property settings. Match Riccardi, you hit it right on point. The whole purpose of it was so that the user can actually set, such as CAD manager can actually set line styles and color options, extract it, and then send it to other people, and then they'll be able to load it up and use it in their drawing or use it for their design. Okay. So again, it's loading a little bit. Sorry about this. All right. Yep. It's currently read-only mode. Sure, why not? I know I'm not supposed to because there's really no point. I have to reopen it again. So that's why I chose yes for now. Okay. So I'm pretty sure we're like, this happens to people. Oh, here you go. It's back, but also not really. Okay, so hold on a second. So I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with CAD softwares. It does lag. It does happen, especially when you're using Open Rose Designer. The amount of processing going on in the background, the amount of tasks it's comprehending right now, it will take a little bit of time. Okay, so another user has asked, do we need to have the proposed surface before we can start designing? Honestly, you do not have to. You can if you choose to do so. If you have an existing surface, it'll be nice because then you can merge it into your existing. But if you don't have one, you don't have to use it. It is just another option that will get you to your final design, or it'll get you to your as-built or your recorded terrain in the end. Okay. So okay. Again, I have to adjust again. It didn't process it. Okay. But our software can generate a surface for you of your curb ramp design. So I'll show you that later on. Sorry about this. It's currently processing on the other end as well. So I wish to turn off that one. Okay. Sorry about this. It's taking a little bit of time to be able to process. Okay. Hold on a sec. Okay. I know this is very unconventional, and because you're Bentley users, I would not wish I've done this, but I'm going to jump into Civil 3D for now because Civil 3D it doesn't save for me, so that it can actually load slightly faster. All right. So I know this is very unconventional. Sorry about this, but just so I can show you guys what it's capable of doing. It is the same for open roads. It does do the same tasks. Oh, actually, it just loaded for me. but it did take a little bit of time to do so. Sorry about that. So again, I'll have to adjust the other one to make it work as well, to be able to get that blended transition. And while we wait, I'll show you hopefully on Civil 3D as well, so that you can see what it's supposed to look like and what's capable of doing. All right. Hold on a second. Okay, so let's boot up Civil 3D. Sorry about this, everyone. But yes, as I was mentioning before, for the surfaces, as you can see, during all the examples that I've done, I haven't used a surface once. If I have one, I can choose to use it, but because I don't have one or I don't need to use one, I have not been using one. All right, so you don't have to worry about having surfaces or anything of the sort. Sorry about this, taking quite a while to load both of them at once. So yes, if there are any other questions, please feel free to keep typing it in. I can keep addressing them while we wait or while we load up our softwares. Okay. This is a Civil 3D example. Let's see how it's going on, how OpenRoads is doing on the other end. It's still loading. Okay. Sorry about this. It usually doesn't happen. Jumped out again. Come on, bring me back in. Okay, so while we wait for OpenRoads to load up, even Civil 3D is giving me a hard time. I'm not sure why. Guess it just doesn't want to cooperate first thing in the morning. Sorry about this. Ignore. Okay, so terrific. Here we go. So I'll just do a really quick example on the side over here. So for blended transition, sorry about the fact that this one's just taking a while to load up for me. So that's how to use Civil 3 to demonstrate for now. But the process is exactly the same. Okay. Okay, so now I can generate my ramp. I'll click to generate. Okay, click generate ramp. Again, I'll go for Michigan, click OK. I'll select my okay, let's just use something. Oh, let's just use this one down here. Let's use this intersection. We'll do a fixed elevation again. We'll offset the primary geometry. Okay, we'll do something bigger. Come on. Pick secondary geometry. Offset it. Sorry about this. It's very troubling. That's not processing very well for me. Sorry about this. Okay. So while I'm waiting for all of this, both of these to process, right now OpenRoads is actually causing my Civil 3D to lag as well, which is kind of sad for me. Okay. So while we wait, someone has asked, does it recognize the diagonal slopes? The answer is unfortunately no, it does not. It only recognizes the cross slope and the running slope. Okay. So I'll offset something here. Did not process for me. Okay, sorry about this. So yeah, it doesn't flag the diagonal at all. It only flags the running and the cross slope. So when you're designing, you just have to keep in mind that you still have a diagonal slope to be aware of as well. Okay. Okay. So I'll again do my socket lines. Is at this point, if I have a surface, I can use it. If I don't have to use it. This is where our software is able to tie in the design surface to the existing surface. So again, I'll press OK for this one. I'll delete the other lines for now, just so it doesn't clog up, just so it doesn't look as messy. Okay, there you go. So here's our curve ramp. Again, we'll just edit it. We'll use a grip points to adjust to create that blended transition. Okay, so just like that, we'll be able to adjust it. And for our ramp length, we'll move it closer together. And even for the radius over here, you can see that's pretty sharp. And for our dialog box, we can actually edit the radius. So let's go 10 feet for now to make it more rounded. So you can see right away, this is what a blended transition would typically look like. Let me delete these lines so that it looks cleaner. So here's our blended transition. So if I were to pan over to the side over here, and you can see like the dialog box, the ribbons, everything is the same, whether I'm using Open Roads or Civil 3D, everything's exactly the same. And this is my blended transition curb ramp. So you can see there, even from side view, there is a slope heading down until I hit my landing. And I have my retaining curb on the back over here. And my slope callouts are provided over here to let me know if I'm compliant. Okay. Okay. So again, I'll click here, go top view, and let's see if this one's still not loaded. Open Roads is really not cooperating with me today. Okay, but as you can see, like even for the Open Roads Designer and for Civil 3D, there's a generate surface button that you can click. You can just simply click to generate the surface. Sorry, I wasn't able to showcase it that well on Open Roads Designer. It is lagging a lot this morning for some really weird reason. It usually doesn't happen like this, but it is lagging a lot right now. All right, so sorry for that. Okay, so I wasn't able to show you the final product in Open Roads Designer. It's very unfortunate. I was able to get the perpendicular and parallel curb ramp going in the open roads, but I wasn't able to do it for the blended transition due to the amount of processing that's happening in the background. So right now, Open Roads isn't even letting me select anything anymore. All right, so okay. So I'll be going back to the PowerPoint presentation to continue on with the PowerPoint, to continue on with the presentation over there. Okay. Okay. So over here. So the system requirements, so you saw me use Open Roads Designer, you've seen me use Civil 3D. We are compatible with MicroStation V8i and Connect as well, and also for AutoCAD. And for Open Roads Designer, we are compatible with the latest updates, so the 2020 ones. Okay. And for our system requirements, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, we're compatible with all of them as well. Okay. So if you have any other questions after the presentation, feel free to contact me and also Majo, the account manager for Great Lakes Bentley and a lot of the, and for Michigan, a lot of the middle states and East Coast, Majo is in charge of. So if you have any questions during your process, you can always contact us at that point. Okay, so I'll be answering some questions. So Tala has asked, do you have any settings in the software that can control the gutter slope, the roadway drainage slopes? So I'm glad you asked. Okay. So over here, so if I go back to the dialog box, actually, so if I go back to dialog box, we don't have an exact way of editing the gutter slope. Our gutter slope is not something that you can just enter the slope value and hope it works. It's actually our workaround for it is that we actually allow the user to set an offset. So right now, if I pan over to the side to view the gutter, we actually allow the user to. So currently the gutter is at 0%. So the user can actually set a vertical offset. So it's anchored at the flow line. They can offset this gutter edge. So if I were to change this to 0.1, you can see that the gutter vertical will change dynamically as well. Let's do something more drastic. So you can see the gutter vertical does change, and with it, the counter slope or the gutter slope changes as well. So if I go back to 0, the gutter went down, and right now it's set at 8.33%. It's lined up with the ramp slope. So if I were to go down 0.05 feet, that's still going up. So if I were to put a negative sign, so now go flatter, and it's at 0.87%. So it is our current workaround for our software to be able to control the gutter slope that the user can use. Okay. Next, user has asked what's the approximate cost of the software. At this point, I'll unmute Majo so that he can actually jump in here. Majo, if you can unmute yourself to address that question. Hello, Majo. We're currently not able to hear you.
Hi, can you hear me, Nelson?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, I know there was some request for pricing, so I just want to answer that specific question. So AQCESSRAMP is priced as a user subscription level. So it's priced according to how many users will need access to the software. So we do have different tiers of pricing for AQCESSRAMP. If you can reach out to me and also let me know, give me an idea of how many people in the organization would need access, I can provide you with the requested pricing. So my email address is shown, so please reach out to me with a request and also letting me know, how long would you need access and how many people will need access. Usually we provide a month and a yearly base subscription pricing. So if you can provide me that requested information, I can definitely help you with that.
All right, terrific. Thank you very much, Majo. So again, yes, if there's any questions about cost or licensing, please contact Majo. You can also contact myself. Our email is provided up here. And again, if there's any other questions about the software itself, please feel free to input it in. Okay. And we will be providing the attendees with a recording of today's session. Again, we also have the recording from our launch webinar on our website as well that the attendees can also check out. That had both examples done in OpenRoads and in Civil 3D. So you'll be able to see what our software is capable of. And even that one, I actually did do a surface merge, or actually did a corridor merge for Open Roads Designer, and in our launch video, in our launch webinar. So you can take a look at that one. Okay, so we are at the hour. If there are anyone who has any further questions, please feel free to ask away or contact me. If not, we'll be ending today's webinar at this moment. All
Hey,
right.
Nelson.
Hi, Chuck.
Yeah, thanks a lot for putting this on. Like I said earlier, I'll send out a link to this video, but I'll also attach in the email the link to that webinar that you're talking about for the launch webinar. So they can go through that too and see how you flipped in this to the Open Roads model. So with that, thanks again for putting this on for us. And if there's any questions, just email Nelson or Majo, and thanks for joining.
All right, terrific. Thank you very much, Chuck. So again, thank you, everyone. So there is another user who asked, what's a ballpark price for one user for 1 month? Majo, if you're, I'll connect you with Majo afterwards, so that Majo will be able to provide you with the information for the pricing. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending today's webinar. I'll be ending the session at this moment. Thank you.